Welcome to Lessons in Mastery. This is Tony Robbins. For 20 years of my life, I've been obsessed with the question of what makes the difference in the quality of people's lives. How come people turn out so differently, even people with similar backgrounds? What gives someone the competitive edge? What makes somebody fulfilled? Why is it some people rise above all the challenges and become so much more? Now, those questions started for me 20 years ago because I was trying to figure out my own life. Like, what do I do? How do I turn what I have as a desire into a reality? And I was very frustrated early on trying to accomplish things, and I failed to achieve them, and I felt bad. And so I began to rationalize for a short time. I started thinking, well, maybe people who succeed on a larger scale, they do that because they have so many more resources than I have. They had a better background, more education, they had a mentor, or they had money, or they had somebody that just really cared about them in their corner. They had a perfect childhood. And you and I both know that's totally absurd. That people that are given everything don't always turn out so well. Sometimes people are given all the money, all the background, all the education, a perfect childhood, total love and support. Sometimes they're not challenged enough. They don't become anything. They never develop any emotional muscle. They never discover who they really are inside. And yet then we see people who have been given nothing virtually. If anything, they've been given pain. And we watch these people become the kind of human beings you and I personally would think of when we think of what is an extraordinary human being. The kind of people that inspire us as people, the kind of people who everyone in the world knows their name. What would you think of the future of a baby girl born to a 13-year-old mother with no father and no visible support? Well, it certainly wouldn't be what we'd call a bright future. Most people wouldn't predict something great. What if I told you that little girl would be abused physically and sexually several times before she was even 13 years old? And then what if I told you at 13 this little girl became pregnant herself and gave birth to a stillborn child? What would you predict would be her future? What if by 14 she was so frustrated inside she was being sent to juvenile hall for the kind of behavior she was indulging in? What would the future be? But most of you probably wouldn't predict a very bright future. You probably wouldn't think of this person as having a future that you well know. You wouldn't think of this person as Oprah Winfrey. That's exactly who she is. You see, it's not what happens. It's what you and I do with what happens that shapes our lives. And so what we have to be able to do is say, how are we going to live our lives? What can we control? We can't control the environment. I mean, there's two worlds really, right? There's the outside world, all the things we're trying to control all the time, and we inside feel uncertain because we know we can't control all the events of our lives. But then there's the inside world, the area you have absolute control over, the area that if you direct it, if you become the shaper of your mind, of your emotions, what you believe, what you decide, what you do, there's where all the power is in life. So in the tapes that follow, I want to share with you what I consider to be profound knowledge. And profound knowledge is not because it's so earth-shattering. It's because it's so simple. See, I live for that. I'm always asking, how can you make this better? How can you help someone be happier, more fulfilled, stronger? How do you get someone to take action? What is that distinction, that idea, that tool, that strategy, that the minute you understand it, you can immediately change the quality of not only your own life, but anyone you have the privilege to touch? That's my definition of profound knowledge. Those simple tools that we use immediately to change your life. Because, so many of us have ideas, but we don't convert them into reality. So for more than 2 decades, I've been in pursuit of that unique human animal, that person called an achiever. Those who've not only succeeded, but are fulfilled. Those who've not only contributed to themselves, but to their family and to society. So whether it be a parent or the President of the United States, whether it be a Michael Jordan or a Nelson Mandela or a Mother Teresa or the beloved Princess Di, who I had the privilege to work with before she passed on, all of these people have shared with me things that help to create an extraordinary quality of life. And that's what this is really all about. So I want to challenge you right now, and I want to invite you that as you begin this program, do it with an active state of mind. Do it as if as you hear something, anything that's valuable, commit to yourself that right now you're going to use it. Grab the telephone and make a commitment to someone, or pull out your time planner and write down what you're going to do, or immediately go take action on any decision you've made or any change you've made. That's how you build momentum. So I invite you right now, join me on this never-ending journey towards a life of active mastery, a life where you not only succeed, but are fulfilled. Let the journey begin, and let's do it with passion. Who are you? Who are you really? Think about it. Your answer to that question is shaping your destiny. It's going to determine how you're going to respond to innumerable situations. Our beliefs definitely control our behavior. So the beliefs you have about one person, like a friend of yours, will determine how you interact with that person. The beliefs you have about a food will determine whether you eat that food. That's pretty basic. But the beliefs you have about people in general are global beliefs, and that'll affect all kinds of relationships. And the beliefs you have about yourself are the most potent beliefs of all. Not only the beliefs you have about what you're capable of, but the beliefs you have about who you are. Because you and I need to remember, it's not our capabilities that determine our behaviors. Our capabilities are constant. What we do is based on identity. I remember an interesting story that was told to me years ago that represents this idea of identity. It's the story of the frog and the scorpion. It seems one day a scorpion wanted to make his way across a river, and he saw a frog and thought, what a great way. So he called out to the frog. He said, Mr. Frog, he said, I'm a scorpion, and I need to get across to my family on the other side. He said, would you be willing to let me ride on your back across to the other side? It's the only way I can get across. The frog looked at him and said, well, I don't think so. He said, how come? The frog said, well, you're a scorpion. Scorpions sting frogs. Well, I'd get halfway across with you out there, and you'd sting me, and I'd die. And the scorpion looked at him and said, oh, Mr. Frog, he said, you're not thinking with your little frog brain. He said, if I stung you, he said, I'd kill you, but I'd drown too. He said, I wouldn't do that. I'd be killing myself. And the frog seemed a little confused by this and said, okay. He let the scorpion jump on his back. He started to swim across the river, and about halfway across, sure enough, the scorpion stings the frog. He can't even believe it. He looks at him, he's going down for the third time, and he turns to the scorpion, he says, I can't believe you did this. Why'd you do this? I'm dying, but you're going to die too. Why? And the scorpion said, because I'm a scorpion, and that's what scorpions do. They sting frogs. What does this story mean? It represents one of the most potent forces in the human personality, and that is this. One of our strongest needs within our personality is to make certain that our behavior is consistent with our identity, even if the identity we hold for ourselves is negative. What do I mean? Well, there's a very big difference between feeling stupid, doing something stupid, or knowing you are stupid. Now, that may sound like semantics, but it makes a huge difference in how you live your life. We all feel stupid at times. We all do stupid things at times. But if you make the jump from feeling or doing something stupid in the moment to believing you are stupid, that belief about who you are will color every single behavior you're involved with for the rest of your life. It defines you and it limits you. You see, the beliefs we have about who we are, our identity, creates the boundaries within which we live our lives. And it isn't limited to something like whether or not we think we're smart or stupid. You say, well, I would never say I'm stupid. I'm smarter than that. Well, maybe you put it in the area of that I'm a procrastinator. See, it's different to have been a person who's procrastinated at times or to procrastinate in the moment than to know you're a procrastinator. Once you decide that's who you are, that behavior will be consistent. Just because you need to be consistent with your own identity. It works in every context you can imagine. It's different to know that you've got 10 extra pounds on your body. That's different than knowing you're a fat person or that you're a compulsive personality. You got to be very careful of the labels that you create for yourself or you allow others to give you, because they begin to define your experience. They begin to change what you notice about yourself, what you're willing to try, what you're not willing to try. They define the way you live. I can tell you, I've met with people over the years who tried everything to make a change and had been even successful in changing a behavior, like, let's say, stop smoking or stop using drugs or something, but it was usually short term and it didn't last. Why didn't it last for them previously? And now I worked with them and we got something that now 2, 3, 4, 5 years later, it still seems to be working. In fact, there's not even a struggle. They're not working not to smoke. They're not working not to take the drugs. Why? What do we do different this time? Well, in the past, they tried just to change their behavior, but they didn't change their identity. They didn't change their beliefs about who they were as a person. See, I can show you how to get off drugs and not use drugs. But if you believe you're a drug addict and then you don't use drugs for 6 months, I guarantee you it's going to be a struggle. Because you're fighting who you are the whole time. And eventually there's a good chance you'll go back. Or for the rest of your life, you'll have to go to sessions where you try to remind yourself that you can't use drugs. You know, there are plenty of people who've been addicted to drugs for years. Hard stuff. And then one day they've quit and never touched it again. How did they do that? Wouldn't it drive you crazy till you figured out someone made a change like that? A change from Saul to Paul, where one day what you loved you now hate, and what you once hated you now love. That's an identity change. That's powerful. That happens when you no longer see yourself as a drug addict. So you can't be a drug addict and expect your behavior to be easy to change. It's much harder to change